Listen closely, because this truth is colder than most men can handle. The world does not overlook you by accident. It overlooks you when your presence carries no weight, when your words are predictable, when your attention is too easy to obtain, and when your absence changes nothing. People may pretend they respect kindness, loyalty, and availability, but beneath the polite mask of society, human nature obeys a darker rule. People chase what feels rare, they fear losing what feels powerful, and they ignore what feels guaranteed. This is why the man who is always available becomes background noise, while the man who is controlled, focused, and difficult to access becomes a psychological problem no one can dismiss. Machiavelli understood the machinery of power better than anyone. He knew that people do not respond to your intentions, they respond to your position. If you stand beneath them, they step over you. If you beg to be understood, they study your weakness. If you explain your worth too often, they assume it does not exist. A man lowers his value every time he chases approval from people who have not earned access to him. He becomes common. He becomes readable. He becomes manageable. And once people believe they can manage you, they stop respecting you. So, your first lesson is this: stop trying to be seen by everyone. Become too refined, too disciplined, too rare, and too internally anchored to be treated casually. Your value does not rise because you speak louder. It rises when your life becomes sharper, when your habits become ruthless, when your emotions no longer drag you like a chain, when your standards become visible without needing an announcement. The dangerous man is not the one who threatens. It is the one who does not need to. His energy is contained. His mind is guarded. His presence is calm, but not soft. People feel there is a consequence to underestimating him, even when he says nothing. This is what Stoicism is here to remind you. You were not born to remain accessible to every opinion, every distraction, every insult, every shallow person who mistakes your patience for weakness. You are here to become a man of weight, a man whose silence makes people think, a man whose discipline makes people uncomfortable, a man whose absence creates a pressure they cannot explain. Comment this phrase below: my value speaks before I do. Write it like a declaration, because from this point forward, you are not begging for attention. You are engineering presence. Law number 1. Become rare before you become respected. You must understand this before anything else. Value is not created by being everywhere, answering everyone, explaining yourself to every small mind, or handing your energy to people who would never pay the price to earn it. Value begins with rarity. The more available you are, the more ordinary you become. The more ordinary you become, the easier you are to dismiss. This is not cruelty. This is human nature stripped of its costume. People do not treasure what is unlimited. They do not protect what is always waiting. They do not fear losing what keeps returning, no matter how poorly it is treated. A man who is always present, always replying, always apologizing, always trying to prove his heart, slowly teaches the world that his presence has no cost. Machiavelli would tell you that power is never given to the man who begs to be included. Power belongs to the man who knows how to withdraw. The man who can disappear into his own mission without needing applause. The man who can leave a room, a relationship, a circle, or an opportunity the moment it begins to insult his standards. That man becomes dangerous because he is not emotionally chained to approval. He does not panic when people misunderstand him. He does not collapse when someone stops clapping. He does not negotiate with disrespect. His value rises because access to him is not automatic. His attention is not public property. His loyalty is not a discount product. His time is not thrown into the hands of whoever looks in his direction. Most people destroy their own value by trying to be chosen. They perform, they overgive, they smile through disrespect. They tolerate subtle insults because they are afraid of being abandoned. But here is the cold truth. When you fear abandonment, you become easy to control. A person only has power over you when they believe your greatest fear is losing them. Dark psychology begins there. They test you with distance. They reward you with crumbs. They study how quickly you respond when they pull away. They learn what tone weakens you, what silence disturbs you, what approval keeps you addicted. And if you are not awake, you become a puppet calling your strings love, friendship, loyalty, or patience. So you must become rare, not arrogant, not dramatic, rare. There is a difference. Arrogance is noise. Rarity is control. Arrogance begs people to notice superiority. Rarity makes them feel it without explanation. You do not become rare by acting cold for attention. You become rare by building a life so focused, so structured, so internally rich that shallow access no longer interests you. You train your body, you sharpen your mind, you control your tongue, you protect your schedule, you stop leaking your emotions into every conversation, you stop telling everyone your plans, you stop giving previews of a future they have not earned the right to witness. A man becomes magnetic when people cannot easily predict him. Not because he is fake, but because he is disciplined. He does not react like the average man. He does not chase when someone plays games. He does not explode when disrespected. He does not advertise pain just to gain sympathy. He watches, he calculates, he learns. He moves when movement is useful, not when emotion demands it. This is masculine stoicism at its highest level, not the absence of feeling, but the command of feeling. You may feel anger, but you do not become anger. You may feel desire, but you do not become a slave to desire. You may feel loneliness, but you do not crawl back to places that poisoned your spirit just because silence feels heavy. Listen carefully. The man who cannot sit alone cannot become powerful. Solitude is where your false identity dies. Solitude reveals whether you have a mission or only distractions. Solitude forces you to face the uncomfortable truth that much of your old personality was built to be accepted by people you did not even respect. That is why most men run from silence. They need noise because noise protects them from self-knowledge. But the man who sits alone studies himself, rebuilds himself, and returns with colder eyes and stronger standards becomes impossible to treat like before. People feel the shift. They may not understand it, but they sense that the old version of you is no longer available. This is where your value begins to rise. Not when you announce that you have changed. Not when you post quotes about power. Not when you try to look mysterious. Your value rises when your behavior becomes harder to manipulate. When people can no longer guilt you into access. When they can no longer flatter you into obedience. When they can no longer provoke you into exposing your weakness. When they realize the emotional buttons they once pressed no longer work. That is the moment you become a problem, not because you attack them, but because you are no longer easy to control. Comment this now. I am no longer easy to access. Put it below like a warning to your old self, because the old you was too open, too quick to explain, too hungry for recognition, too willing to give premium loyalty to people offering cheap energy. That version of you must be buried without ceremony. Do not mourn him. He served his purpose, but he cannot enter the next level with you. From this day forward, you must make access to you expensive. Your time must have borders. Your words must have weight. Your presence must feel earned. Stop replying instantly to people who treat you casually. Stop giving emotional essays to those committed to misunderstanding you. Stop attending every argument you are invited to. Stop lowering your standards because someone is attractive, popular, familiar, or useful. A king who opens the palace gates to everyone soon discovers that the throne has become a public chair. And remember this: rarity does not mean isolation from the world. It means separation from the common rhythm. While others chase stimulation, you chase mastery. While others announce every move, you build in silence. While others drown in emotional impulses, you study the game. While others seek comfort, you develop capacity. You become rare by refusing to live at the level of the crowd. The crowd is predictable, hungry for approval, terrified of rejection, addicted to entertainment, softened by convenience, controlled by desire. You must become the opposite: calm under pressure, silent under insult, focused under temptation, unmoved by praise, untouched by absence, sharp enough to see manipulation before it wraps itself in sweet language. This is the first law of increasing your value. Become scarce, become disciplined, become unavailable to nonsense, and become loyal only to the mission that is building you. When your life becomes a fortress, people stop walking through you like an open field. When your standards become iron, people stop approaching you with plastic intentions. When your silence becomes intentional, people start listening even before you speak. That is power. That is presence. That is the beginning of becoming untouchable. Law number 2. Build a presence that punishes disrespect without saying a word. The next level of value begins when your presence stops feeling harmless, not violent, not loud, not desperate to intimidate. Harmlessness is what makes people careless with you. When your eyes look uncertain, your words spill too easily, your posture asks for permission, and your energy bends toward whoever gives you a little attention, people sense it. They may not say it directly, but they feel that you can be interrupted, delayed, mocked, ignored, and still return with the same eagerness. That is the scent of low value. The man who wants to become impossible to ignore must remove that scent from his character. He must become composed enough to make disrespect feel expensive before he ever opens his mouth. Understand this clearly. People do not only judge your value by what you own, what you know, or what you say. They judge it by what they believe they can get away with. Every human being around you is constantly, silently measuring your boundaries. Some do it consciously. Most do it instinctively. They throw small jokes at your dignity. They delay their responses. They speak over you. They make promises and break them. They give you half respect and watch your reaction. They are not always evil. They are human, and human beings test what they do not fear. If your reaction is nervous laughter, over-explaining, emotional pleading, or fake patience, you have taught them the lesson they were looking for. This man can be handled. Machiavelli would never tell you to be blindly kind in a world built on advantage. He would tell you to study the room, study the faces, study the pauses, study the tone behind the words. Power belongs to the man who notices what others miss. The careless man listens only to sentences. The dangerous man listens to patterns. He sees who respects him only when they need something. He sees who becomes warm when they want access, and cold when he needs loyalty. He sees who praises him in public, but quietly undermines him in private. He sees who mistakes his calmness for weakness, and because he sees, he does not need to rage. Rage is often the confession of a man who noticed too late. Your presence must become a controlled environment. When people enter your energy, they should feel there are rules even if you never announce them. You do not need to say, "Respect me." That is weak. A man who must beg for respect has already lost authority. Instead, you embody a standard so consistently that disrespect looks out of place around you. You speak less, but with more accuracy. You move slower, but with more certainty. You answer when it serves you, not when anxiety commands you. You do not fill silence just because someone else is uncomfortable. You do not laugh at insults just to prove you are relaxed. You do not allow familiarity to become a doorway for contempt. This is cold power psychology. Make your emotional responses difficult to purchase. Most people are predictable because their emotions are cheap. Compliment them and they soften. Ignore them and they panic. Insult them and they explode. Desire them and they surrender. Threaten abandonment and they obey. But the man of value becomes hard to buy. Praise does not make him careless. Rejection does not make him frantic. Provocation does not make him theatrical. Desire does not make him stupid. He has trained himself to pause between feeling and action. That pause is where power lives. The world can throw hooks at him, but he does not bite just because something shines. If you want no one to ignore you, stop behaving like your attention is a public service. Your attention is a weapon. Your approval is a currency. Your presence is a privilege. When you hand these things away without measurement, people spend them carelessly. But when you control them, people become alert. They notice when your tone changes. They notice when your replies shorten. They notice when you no longer volunteer warmth where respect has not been shown. This is not childish punishment. This is energetic governance. A sovereign man does not argue with every citizen of his kingdom. He simply changes access. Comment this phrase below. My presence has consequences. Write it because you need to hear yourself declare it. The old version of you allowed people to walk in and out of your life like your peace was an unlocked room. They could bring confusion, disrespect, mixed signals, emotional dirt, and you would still offer them a chair. That ends now. Your inner world is not a shelter for unstable people. Your mind is not a courtroom where every fool gets to defend their behavior for hours. Your energy is not a marketplace where anyone with a story can bargain down your standards. A powerful man does not chase explanations from people who already showed him the truth through behavior. This is where many men lose their dignity. They see the disrespect, but they ask for clarification. They feel the distance, but they beg for reassurance. They recognize the manipulation, but they ask the manipulator to confirm it. Why? Because truth demands action, and action requires courage. It is easier to ask one more question than to make one clean decision. It is easier to keep discussing pain than to remove the source of it. But the man who increases his value accepts behavior as language. When someone repeatedly shows you where you stand, believe the evidence, not the apology. The darker side of human nature is this. Some people do not respect mercy until they meet consequence. They will take your forgiveness as permission. They will call your boundaries pride. They will call your silence immaturity. They will call your self-respect cruelty. Let them. The weak always rename strength when they can no longer exploit it. Your job is not to manage their interpretation. Your job is to protect your position. A man who keeps explaining his boundaries to people committed to crossing them is not noble. He is negotiating with invasion. You must learn the art of quiet removal. No drama, no announcement, no long speech about how disappointed you are. Just distance. Clean, cold, controlled distance. The moment someone proves they cannot handle your access with respect, you reduce it. If they continue, you remove it. That is how value is protected. Not through endless confrontation, but through decisive subtraction. The world respects what it can lose. Make sure people understand, through your actions, that losing you is possible. Not because you threaten it, but because you have the discipline to enforce it. This does not mean you become bitter. Bitterness is still attachment. Bitterness means they are living rent-free inside your nervous system. You are not here to become bitter. You are here to become governed. You are here to become a man whose emotions have been trained like soldiers, not scattered like frightened children. You can care without crawling. You can love without surrendering your throne. You can listen without absorbing poison. You can forgive without reopening the gate. This is masculine stoicism, strength with restraint, clarity without cruelty, discipline without emotional decay. A man with true presence makes people careful, not because they fear his anger, but because they sense his standards. They know he will not debate his worth. They know he will not compete for basic respect. They know he will not stay where his spirit is being slowly insulted. And that is when your value begins to rise in the eyes of the world. Not because everyone likes you, but because everyone understands that access to you requires alignment. Some will resent you for this. Good. Resentment from the undisciplined is often proof that your boundaries are working. So carry yourself like a man who has stopped asking the world for permission to exist. Speak with less urgency, walk with more ownership, listen with colder intelligence, smile when it is real, not when fear demands it. Let silence do what your old explanations failed to do. Become the kind of man whose calmness makes people review their tone. Become the kind of man whose absence forces people to confront what they took for granted. Become the kind of man whose value is not announced in words, but felt in the nervous system of everyone who tries to underestimate him. This is law number 2. Build a presence so disciplined, so grounded, and so self-possessed that disrespect punishes itself by losing access to you. Law number 3. Turn your mind into a fortress. No one can enter without permission. The easiest man to control is the man whose mind has no walls. He absorbs every insult, every opinion, every rumor, every seductive word, every small rejection, and every emotional signal, as if it were a command from heaven. One cold reply ruins his day. One delayed message makes him question his worth. One criticism shakes his identity. One person withdrawing attention makes him abandon his discipline and crawl back toward the very thing that weakened him. That man is not living. He is being operated. His nervous system is in the hands of strangers. His peace depends on people who have not earned the right to touch it. You must never become that man again. Your mind must become a fortress, not a prison. A fortress. There is a difference. A prison traps you inside fear. A fortress protects what is valuable. Your thoughts, your focus, your ambition, your emotional balance, your long-term vision. These are royal assets. You do not leave them unguarded. You do not allow every careless voice to walk in with muddy feet and rearrange the furniture of your soul. You decide what enters. You decide what matters. You decide what receives your reaction. That is how a man becomes internally untouchable. Dark psychology works because most people are mentally unprotected. They are easy to bait, easy to flatter, easy to guilt, easy to provoke, and easy to distract. Give them praise, and they become loyal. Give them silence, and they become desperate. Give them fear, and they become obedient. But a fortified man studies the move before he responds to it. He asks, why is this being said? What reaction is this trying to extract? What weakness is this person trying to locate? He does not swallow every word as truth. He analyzes it like a weapon placed on the table. Comment this phrase below, "My mind is guarded." Write it with intention because this is where your old weakness begins to starve. From this moment forward, you do not let people rent space in your head for free. You do not replay disrespect all night like a wounded servant. You do not build entire emotional stories from fragments of attention. You do not turn someone's inconsistency into a crisis of self-worth. Their behavior is information, not identity. Their distance is data, not a death sentence. Their opinion is noise unless it comes from a mind you respect. A man's value rises when his inner world becomes difficult to disturb. This is why stoicism is not softness. It is not pretending you feel nothing. It is mastering the gate. Anger may knock, but it does not enter without permission. Desire may knock, but it does not take the throne. Fear may knock, but it does not write your decisions. Loneliness may knock, but it does not drag you back to people who made you smaller. You are the ruler inside the walls. Every impulse must kneel before your judgment. And once your mind becomes guarded, people feel it. Manipulators lose confidence around you. Drama loses oxygen around you. Disrespect loses entertainment around you. You stop being a screen where others project their chaos. You stop reacting like a man with open wounds. You become harder to read, harder to shake, harder to seduce, harder to shame. That is when your presence changes. Not because you became louder, but because you became sovereign. Law number 4. Make your discipline more addictive than their approval. The moment you become addicted to approval, you hand strangers the remote control to your identity. They press one button and you feel powerful. They press another and you feel worthless. A compliment becomes your oxygen. A rejection becomes your collapse. A little attention becomes your drug. A small silence becomes your punishment. This is how weak men are governed, not by chains around their wrists, but by invisible hunger inside their chest. They are not chasing greatness. They are chasing permission. They do not build themselves because they respect the mission. They build themselves only when someone is watching. That is why they never become dangerous. Their discipline has an audience, and anything that needs an audience can be interrupted. You must become different. You must learn to love the private work so deeply that applause starts to feel secondary. The gym when nobody knows, the study when nobody sees, the early morning when no one praises you, the lonely decision to stay focused while others drown in comfort, the quiet refusal to answer temptation with weakness. This is where value is forged, not in public celebration, but in private repetition. Every day you keep a promise to yourself, your spine becomes harder. Every day you choose structure over mood, your identity becomes cleaner. Every day you do what must be done without needing emotional fireworks, You become less dependent on the world's reaction. Most men are easy to defeat because their habits are emotional. They work only when inspired. They train only when motivated. They focus only when life feels good. They become disciplined for 3 days, then disappear into excuses. They talk like kings, but live like servants to impulse. A little sadness defeats them. A little boredom distracts them. A little desire pulls them off course. That kind of man cannot be respected for long because even he does not trust himself. And when a man does not trust himself, the world smells it. It shows in his voice. It shows in his posture. It shows in the desperate way he tries to convince others he is becoming something while his habits betray him in secret. Machiavelli would tell you that power belongs to the man who controls the conditions others use to control him. If they can control you with praise, you are not powerful. If they can control you with rejection, you are not powerful. If they can control you with pleasure, you are not powerful. If they can control you with comfort, you are not powerful. The man who wants to increase his value must remove the hooks from his own flesh. He must stop being dragged by every sweet word, every attractive face, every temporary mood, every shallow invitation, every lazy desire that promises relief but steals momentum. He must become loyal to the version of himself that does not yet exist, even when the current version is tired, lonely, and unrecognized. There is a dark truth about human nature. People respect results, but they rarely respect the invisible suffering required to create them. They do not care how hard it was to rebuild your mind. They do not care how many nights you fought yourself in silence. They do not care how many temptations you refused, how many impulses you buried, how many versions of yourself you had to kill to stand with colder eyes and stronger hands. They only notice when the transformation becomes undeniable. So stop expecting the world to clap for the process. The process is yours, the pain is yours, the discipline is yours, the reward is also yours. Comment this phrase below: I obey my mission, not my mood. Write it because your mood has stolen enough from you. Your mood has delayed your rise. Your mood has made you soft in moments where you needed to be sharp. Your mood has convinced you to postpone the work, send the message, break the silence, eat the weakness, skip the training, ignore the plan, and betray the future for a few minutes of comfort. Enough. A man who is ruled by mood cannot become untouchable. He can only become predictable, and predictable men are easy to manipulate. Discipline must become your private empire, not punishment, not self-hatred, not some dramatic performance of suffering. Discipline is self-respect made visible. It is the proof that your word still means something when nobody is there to enforce it. It is the silent contract between the man you are and the man you are building. Every time you honor that contract, your confidence becomes less fragile. You stop needing people to validate you because your own behavior has already testified on your behalf. You know what you did when nobody was watching. You know what you resisted. You know what you completed. That knowledge creates a different kind of calm, a dangerous calm, the calm of a man with evidence. And understand this: confidence without evidence is theater. Many men act confident, but their nervous system knows they are lying. They speak loudly because their actions are quiet. They demand respect because their discipline has not earned it. They call themselves high value while living with low standards. That mask always cracks. Real confidence is colder. It does not need to announce itself. It grows from proof. Proof that you can endure discomfort. Proof that you can keep your promises. Proof that you can walk away. Proof that you can stay silent. Proof that you can build while ignored. Proof that you can survive without the approval that once controlled you. This is why discipline makes you psychologically expensive. When you are disciplined, people cannot easily buy your attention with distraction. They cannot easily pull you into drama. They cannot easily seduce you into wasting your life. They cannot easily shame you for choosing your mission. You become inconvenient to their games because your life has direction, and a man with direction is harder to manipulate than a man looking for entertainment. The directionless man can be tempted by anything. The focused man must be approached with value, or not approached at all. You must become ruthless with anything that weakens your command, not cruel to others, but merciless with your own excuses. If your phone is making you stupid, control it. If your circle is making you average, separate. If your desires are making you reckless, discipline them. If your emotions are making you reactive, train them. If your environment keeps pulling you backward, redesign it. Stop worshipping comfort like it is a god. Comfort has made more men invisible than failure ever did. Failure can sharpen you. Comfort sedates you. Failure can teach you. Comfort convinces you there is no war while your potential is quietly bleeding out. The man who becomes valuable learns to make boredom useful. He does not need constant stimulation. He can sit with the book. He can sit with the plan. He can sit with the workout. He can sit with the silence. He can sit with the slow process without escaping into cheap dopamine every 10 minutes. That ability alone separates him from the crowd. The crowd needs noise. The crowd needs novelty. The crowd needs entertainment. The crowd needs someone to text, something to scroll, something to consume, something to complain about. But you are not here to be the crowd. You are here to become the man the crowd secretly studies, imitates, envies, and cannot understand. When discipline becomes your addiction, you stop fearing being ignored. You almost welcome it. Being ignored gives you privacy. Privacy gives you space. Space gives you focus. Focus gives you mastery. Mastery gives you value. And value eventually becomes impossible to hide. Let them underestimate you while you sharpen. Let them forget your name while you build your foundation. Let them laugh while you remove weaknesses they are too distracted to notice in themselves. One day, the same people who overlooked you will feel a strange discomfort when they see what you became, not because you begged them to notice, but because your transformation will accuse their laziness without saying a word. Your mission must become louder than their opinions. Your standards must become stronger than your loneliness. Your routine must become more seductive than chaos. Your future must become more important than temporary pleasure. When you reach that point, you no longer chase value. You radiate it. You become the man whose life has weight because his actions have weight. You become the man whose silence feels earned because his discipline is real. You become the man who cannot be ignored because he no longer needs to be noticed. Law number 5. Control the story people tell about you. Your value does not only live inside your discipline, it also lives inside the story people carry about you when you are not in the room. Never forget this. The world does not deal with your true self first. It deals with your reputation. It deals with the image it has collected from your patterns, your reactions, your choices, your posture, your silence, your mistakes, your victories, and the way you allowed others to treat you. Every man is surrounded by an invisible narrative. Some men are known as dependable. Some are known as emotional. Some are known as easy. Some are known as dangerous. Some are known as forgettable. Some are known as the kind of man you do not test twice. The painful truth is this: people will create a story about you whether you guide it or not. So you must become the author before the crowd becomes the writer. You do not do this by pretending. You do not do this by performing a fake personality. You do it by becoming extremely consistent with the signals you send. If you want to be seen as valuable, stop sending signals of desperation. Stop showing people that your mood can be purchased by their attention. Stop letting your mouth reveal every wound, every plan, every insecurity, every private battle. A man who exposes too much becomes easy to predict. A man who is easy to predict becomes easy to reduce. Mystery is not about acting strange. Mystery is controlled disclosure. It is the discipline to reveal only what strengthens your position and conceal what weakens your leverage. Machiavelli understood that appearance is not shallow when power is involved. Appearance is strategy. People respond to what they perceive long before they discover what is real. This does not mean you become a liar. It means you become wise enough to know that truth without timing can still become a weapon against you. Tell the wrong person your ambition and they will poison it with doubt. Tell the wrong person your pain and they will study where to cut you later. Tell the wrong person your weakness and they will smile while filing it away for future use. The world is not a confession booth. Not everyone deserves access to the raw version of you. Your reputation must be built like armor, quietly, layer by layer, through repeated proof. When people hear your name, they should not think of chaos, neediness, excuses, or emotional leakage. They should think of control, precision, standards, weight. A man whose word means something. A man who does not chase rooms that do not recognize him. A man who can be polite without being soft, distant without being bitter, disciplined without needing applause. This is how you control the story. You make your behavior so stable that gossip has nothing strong enough to hold on to. You make your standards so visible that disrespect looks foolish before it reaches you. But you must also understand the darker game. Some people will try to write a weaker story about you because your growth threatens the version of you they used to control. When you stop begging, they may call you arrogant. When you become quiet, they may call you cold. When you enforce boundaries, they may call you changed. When you stop explaining, they may call you immature. Let them speak. Their words are not always truth. Sometimes their words are withdrawal symptoms. They are reacting to the loss of access. They are grieving the old version of you who could be guilted, pulled, delayed, and played with. Do not defend your evolution to people who benefited from your weakness. Comment this phrase below. I control my narrative. Write it because the old you allowed too many people to define you. You let their disappointment make you feel guilty for growing. You let their confusion make you question your clarity. You let their labels stick to your skin like chains. That ends here. You are not the story told by people who only knew you when you lacked standards. You are not the opinion of those who needed you small so they could feel powerful. You are not the insult of someone losing influence over your mind. You are the author now. A powerful man understands that every public reaction becomes evidence. The way you respond to disrespect becomes evidence. The way you handle rejection becomes evidence. The way you move after failure becomes evidence. The way you speak when angry becomes evidence. The way you carry yourself when ignored becomes evidence. People are always collecting evidence about your level. If you react like a child, they file you under weak. If you explain like a servant, they file you under controllable. If you collapse when excluded, they file you under needy. But if you remain composed, if you withdraw cleanly, if you keep moving with purpose, if you refuse to bleed in public, they begin to file you under something else. Dangerous. Dangerous does not mean violent. Dangerous means difficult to reduce. Dangerous means emotionally expensive to manipulate. Dangerous means your silence cannot be mistaken for defeat. Dangerous means people realize that losing your respect is possible and recovering it is not guaranteed. This is the type of story that makes others think before they approach you with nonsense. They may not like you. They may not understand you. They may even resent you, but they will not handle you casually. And in a world full of men desperate to be liked, being handled carefully is a far greater victory. You must become intentional with your image because your image opens or closes doors before your character gets a chance to speak. Dress like a man who respects his own presence. Walk like your time has value. Speak like your words are expensive. Keep your environment clean enough to reflect order. Keep your body strong enough to suggest discipline. Keep your promises sharp enough to create trust. Keep your emotional world private enough to create depth. Nothing about you should scream for validation. Everything about you should suggest that you have already chosen yourself. Do not confuse humility with making yourself small. Real humility is quiet confidence in service of mastery. False humility is fear wearing a polite mask. Some men call themselves humble because they are afraid to stand fully in their own power. They shrink their voice, they hide their ambition, they soften their standards, they apologize for occupying space. That is not virtue, that is self-betrayal. A man can be humble and still be formidable. He can listen deeply and still dominate his own path. He can respect others without placing himself beneath them. Never let society trick you into believing that your strength must be diluted to make weaker people comfortable. There is also a strategic silence you must learn. Not every accusation needs a defense. Not every rumor needs your attention. Not every misunderstanding deserves a press conference. Sometimes responding gives small people the importance they were begging for. Sometimes silence makes their attack look hungry and your position looks solid. When the dogs bark at the gate, the king does not lean out of the window to debate them. He keeps ruling. Your movement is the answer. Your results are the correction. Your consistency is the reply. Let your life become too heavy for cheap words to move. But do not use silence as cowardice. Use it as command. There are moments when a man must speak clearly, directly, and without trembling. When your boundary must be named, name it. When your position must be stated, state it. When a lie must be corrected, correct it once, with calm precision. Then leave it there. The weak over-explain, because they want to be rescued from judgment. The strong clarify when necessary, and return to their mission. Never drown your authority in too many words. A sharp sentence can do what a desperate paragraph never will. Your value multiplies when your reputation and your reality become aligned. If people think you are disciplined, be disciplined. If they think you are focused, be focused. If they think you are dangerous to underestimate, make sure your habits support that belief. A false image is a debt. Eventually, life collects. But a true image built from repeated action becomes compound interest. Every controlled reaction adds to it. Every silent victory adds to it. Every refusal to chase adds to it. Every promise kept in private adds to it. Over time, your name begins to carry force before you arrive. So protect the story. Protect it from your impulses. Protect it from your hunger for attention. Protect it from the temporary pleasure of proving people wrong too early. Protect it from oversharing. Protect it from emotional theatrics. Protect it from environments that reduce you to a weaker identity. Let people see enough to respect you, but not enough to own you. Let them hear enough to understand your direction, but not enough to sabotage your movement. Let them feel your presence, but never gain access to your center without earning it. When you control your narrative, you stop being a random character in other people's minds. You become a force with shape. A man of intention, a man of consequence, a man whose name is not attached to desperation, but to discipline. And once your story changes, the world starts behaving differently around you. People listen with more care. They approach with more calculation. They test less openly. They wonder more silently. They begin to sense that you are not the man they can ignore, use, provoke, or casually replace. Law number 6. Starve the weakness that makes you predictable. The most dangerous weakness in a man is not anger, sadness, desire, or fear. It is predictability. When people know exactly what will pull you back, they do not need strength to control you. They only need timing. They know when to flatter you. They know when to disappear. They know when to offer a little warmth after giving you coldness. They know which wound still wants attention, which memory still bends your pride, which temptation still makes your discipline negotiate with itself. A predictable man is not defeated by enemies. He is defeated by patterns he refuses to break. So you must study yourself like an enemy would. Where do you fold? Where do you chase? Where do you explain too much? Where do you trade your standards for comfort? Where do you pretend to be patient when you are actually afraid of walking away? Do not answer softly. The truth must cut. A man cannot increase his value while protecting the habits that make him cheap. You must become brutally aware of every emotional door others have used to enter your mind. Dark psychology becomes powerless when your patterns change. If guilt used to control you, stop reacting to guilt. If attention used to seduce you, stop worshipping attention. If silence used to make you panic, learn to sit inside silence like a throne room. If rejection used to make you prove yourself, let rejection pass without performance. Every time you deny an old trigger, its usual reaction, you become harder to read, harder to move, harder to own. Comment this phrase below. My patterns no longer betray me. Write it because your next level requires secrecy from your old self. The weak version of you must no longer know what you will do next. The people who once controlled you must find no familiar buttons left to press. Become unpredictable through discipline, not chaos. Do not become unstable. Become evolved. Let your calm surprise them. Let your distance confuse them. Let your focus disturb them. Let your silence end conversations your old desperation would have continued. When your weaknesses starve, your value speaks louder. Law number 7. Become useful in a world full of noise. A man's value rises when his existence solves problems instead of creating them. Most people are walking interruptions. They bring confusion, complaints, emotional hunger, unfinished work, weak promises, and heavy energy into every room they enter. They do not add structure. They add pressure. They do not bring clarity. They bring fog. They do not make life sharper for anyone around them. They make life more expensive. And then they wonder why they are ignored, replaced, avoided, or tolerated instead of respected. The world does not reward the man who only demands attention. It rewards the man whose presence improves the battlefield. You must become useful in a way that feels rare. Not useful like a servant. Not useful like a man begging to be needed. Useful like a weapon. Useful like a strategist. Useful like a man who carries answers while others carry excuses. When people are panicking, you bring calm. When they are confused, you bring direction. When they are emotional, you bring analysis. When they are scattered, you bring structure. When they are weak, you do not join their weakness. You become the controlled force in the room. This is how a man stops being background noise. He becomes an asset. Machiavelli would understand this clearly. Influence belongs to the person who controls outcomes, not the loudest, not the most emotional, not the one who claims loyalty with empty words. The person who can solve, protect, organize, predict, negotiate, and decide becomes valuable because people feel the cost of losing him. If your absence does not create a gap, your presence has not built enough weight. If people can replace your contribution in 1 minute, you have not sharpened your edge enough. A valuable man develops abilities that make his presence difficult to substitute. So ask yourself with cold honesty, what do you bring that cannot be found easily? Is your mind sharper than average? Is your body disciplined beyond comfort? Is your emotional control stronger than the crowd? Is your word more reliable than the men around you? Is your silence more powerful than their noise? Can you protect peace? Can you create money? Can you solve conflict? Can you lead under pressure? Can you disappear into work and return with results? If the answer is no, do not become offended. Become dangerous through improvement. Most men want respect before they become respectable. They want admiration before they become admirable. They want loyalty before they prove stability. They want recognition while living in habits that produce nothing impressive. This is childish. The world owes no man reverence for his potential. Potential is only a seed. Value is what grows after pressure, repetition, and sacrifice. Nobody is obligated to celebrate what you might become. They respond to what your actions repeatedly prove. Comment this phrase below. I bring value, not noise. Put it there because this must become your identity. You are no longer the man who enters rooms needing to be emotionally fed. You are no longer the man who drains conversations with complaints. You are no longer the man who waits for someone else to rescue the moment. You become the one who notices what must be fixed, the one who sees the missing piece, the one who says less, but when he speaks, people lean in because his words remove confusion instead of adding to it. There is a masculine authority that comes from competence. It cannot be faked for long. You can dress like power, speak like power, post like power, and imitate the posture of power. But when pressure arrives, competence separates kings from actors. The actor becomes loud. The competent man becomes precise. The actor looks for someone to blame. The competent man searches for the lever. The actor needs sympathy. The competent man needs information. Pressure exposes whether your confidence is built from image or ability. That is why you must train skills in silence, build financial intelligence, build physical strength, build emotional control, build communication that cuts through confusion. Build the ability to read people without being hypnotized by them. Build discipline so stable that chaos around you does not infect the system inside you. Every skill you gain increases your weight in the world. Every weakness you remove makes you less disposable. Every problem you learn to solve becomes another reason people cannot casually ignore you. But do not become useful to everyone. This is where many men fall into the trap. They become capable, then start giving their capacity away to people who only consume. They become strong, then allow weak people to turn them into an emotional garbage can. They become reliable, then attract unreliable people who expect rescue without respect. Never let your usefulness become slavery. A high-value man offers value with standards. He helps where it is honored. He contributes where there is alignment. He protects where there is loyalty. He does not pour his strength into bottomless people who confuse support with entitlement. Dark psychology teaches that people will often take your strength for granted if you make it too available. They will lean on you until your back breaks, then call you selfish when you finally stand upright. They will expect your solutions, your calm, your time, your labor, your forgiveness, and your emotional stability as if you were built to serve their disorder. That is why usefulness must be guarded by boundaries. A sword is valuable because it is sharp and controlled. If it is passed around carelessly, it becomes a tool in someone else's hand. Your value increases when you become both capable and selective. Capability makes you useful. Selectiveness makes you respected. Without capability, selectiveness becomes arrogance. Without selectiveness, capability becomes exploitation. You need both. You must be able to deliver, and you must be willing to deny access. This combination creates psychological gravity. People know you can help. They also know help is not guaranteed. They know your presence improves situations. They also know disrespect can remove that presence. That tension is power. Do not waste your life trying to convince shallow people that you are valuable. Build so much substance that convincing becomes unnecessary. Let your competence announce you quietly. Let your results speak with a heavy voice. Let your emotional control become the evidence. Let your lifestyle become the argument. The man who produces value does not have to chase attention. Attention eventually turns toward him because usefulness is magnetic in a world drowning in useless noise. And remember this, the highest form of usefulness is self-command. Before you become valuable to others, become valuable to yourself. Be the man you can trust under pressure. Be the man who does not abandon his own standards when desire appears. Be the man who does not betray his mission when loneliness whispers. Be the man who can look at his own life and know he is not a burden to his future. When you become useful to your own destiny, the world begins to feel the force of your alignment. So stop asking, why don't they notice me? Ask, what have I built that cannot be dismissed? Stop asking, why don't they respect me? Ask, where am I still behaving like a man who has not earned his own respect? Stop asking, why was I replaced? Ask, what must I sharpen so deeply that replacement becomes difficult? These questions are not soft, they are surgical. They cut away fantasy and leave only responsibility. A man becomes untouchable when he stops needing attention and starts becoming necessary. Necessary to his mission, necessary to the outcome, necessary to the room because his presence brings order, not chaos. Become the man who carries solutions in a generation addicted to excuses. Become the man whose silence has more substance than another man's speech. Become the man whose value is felt because life becomes harder when he is absent. Law number 8. Make your absence more powerful than your explanation. The final test of a man's value is not how loudly he can defend himself, but how calmly he can remove himself. Most men destroy their power because they cannot leave without explaining. They feel misunderstood, so they speak more. They feel disrespected, so they argue longer. They feel ignored, so they try harder to be seen. But understand this clearly. Every unnecessary explanation is a confession that you still need permission to walk away. A powerful man does not keep presenting evidence to people who have already chosen not to respect the truth. He understands that some conversations are not designed to find clarity, they are designed to exhaust him. Some people do not ask questions because they want answers. They ask because they want access to your emotions. They want to see you defend, react, bleed, justify, and lower yourself into their courtroom. And the moment you accept that invitation, you step down from your throne. Machiavelli would tell you that power is not only found in action, it is also found in restraint. The man who can leave without trembling becomes dangerous because he cannot be trapped by emotional negotiation. He does not need the final word. He does not need the perfect apology. He does not need everyone to understand his side. He has learned something colder. Peace is often more valuable than being proven right. Comment this phrase below. My absence explains enough. Write it because the old version of you talked too much to people who listened too little. You explained your pain to those who caused it. You gave emotional speeches to people who only studied your weakness. You tried to make blind people admire the color of your soul. That ends now. Your absence must become disciplined, not dramatic. Do not disappear to manipulate. Do not go silent to be chased. Do not withdraw so they panic and beg for you. That is still attachment wearing a mask of control. True absence is different. True absence means you have accepted the evidence, you have seen the pattern, you have measured the disrespect, and you have decided that your energy is too expensive to keep investing in places that produce humiliation. A man with low value leaves loudly because he secretly wants to be stopped. A man with high value leaves quietly because his decision is already complete. He does not slam doors. He closes them. He does not announce his standards every week. He enforces them. He does not punish people with chaos. He simply removes the privilege they mishandled. This is where many men fail. They keep returning to the same people, the same conversations, the same emotional traps, hoping that one more explanation will finally create respect. But respect that requires begging is not respect. Loyalty that requires chasing is not loyalty. Love that requires self-abandonment is not love, and peace that depends on someone else's mood is not peace. It is captivity. You must learn to let silence carry the message. When they disrespect you, reduce access. When they repeat it, remove access. When they return with words but no changed behavior, observe. Do not be seduced by apologies that arrive only after consequence. Many people do not miss you. They miss control over you. They do not regret the damage. They regret losing the door. Your absence becomes powerful when it is backed by self-respect. When you walk away and do not keep looking back. When you stop checking whether they noticed. When you stop posting pain disguised as wisdom. When you stop sending signals that the gate is still half open. A man who truly leaves does not keep decorating the exit with emotion. He turns his face toward the mission and lets distance finish the conversation. And understand this: absence is not weakness. Absence is strategy. Absence creates measurement. It shows who valued your presence and who only used your availability. It reveals who reaches with accountability and who reaches with entitlement. It exposes who respected you and who only enjoyed your patience. When you step back, the truth steps forward. This is why your absence must be clean. No begging, no emotional essays, no secret resentment, no desperate need to be understood. You leave because staying would make you smaller. You leave because your standards require movement. You leave because your future cannot be built inside environments that keep insulting your growth. A valuable man knows that his presence is a gift, but his absence is a verdict. Not spoken in anger, not written in revenge, delivered through action. When people lose access to you, they should not hear a threat. They should feel a consequence. They should understand that something stable, useful, disciplined, and rare has been removed from their world because they failed to honor it. So stop explaining your worth to people committed to discounting it. Stop defending your boundaries to people committed to crossing them. Stop proving your loyalty to people who only respect you when you are useful. Stop giving your emotional life to those who turn your openness into leverage. From this day forward, your absence must become sacred. You do not stay where your spirit is being drained. You do not return where your growth is mocked. You do not negotiate with people who only understand value after losing it. You do not let nostalgia drag you back into prisons your discipline already escaped.